I look at each of you, and I see the marks of this long and terrible war. If we die tonight, mankind dies with us. The machine sent a Terminator back to the time before the war to kill my mother, Sarah Connor.
Sir, let me save her.
What you're doing right now, this is the end of the war.
I'd love to change the world, but I don't know what to do.
The time you're going back to, she'll be scared and weak. Take care of her for me, Kyle.
Come with me if you want to live. Now, soldier!
This is all wrong. John sent me here to save you.
From the Terminator that was sent back to kill me, I know, but we already took care of him.
We
I've been waiting for you.
The time John sent you to, it no longer exists. Everything's changed. We can stop Judgment Day from happening. Run! Where is he?
I'll be back.
What?
You know what this trailer needs? More Terminators. However many Terminators the people making this movie thinks is too many, they should then double that number and put it in the film. Because nobody goes and sees a movie with Terminator in the title to watch humans. And that's all that I saw. A whole bunch of humans running around. I saw a few special effects shots, and hey, maybe the special effects shots aren't ready. But then I would have waited to debut a trailer until they were. Because there isn't a single shot in this trailer which is on par with T2, which I still think to this day is the best entry in the franchise. And some of the visual effects, by the way, look even worse than the ones that were on display in Terminator Salvation. I'll discuss that specifically in a moment, just like I did with Star Wars The Force Awakens. Since there was such a positive reaction to the way I reviewed that trailer, I did it shot by shot. Here I'm going to do this section by section. I've broken down the trailer into different sections. I've given them titles. We're going to have a lot of fun, but first my initial thoughts before we really dive into it. So as I said, more Terminators, less humans, more money shots, although we do get 2 here. And then the one thing that surprised me though, besides Byung-hun Lee looking so awesome, I'm so excited for him in this movie, but I really like Emilia Clarke as Sarah Connor. I did not see that coming. I was like, no one can replace Linda Hamilton. But just like someone replaced her in James Cameron's real life, sadly to say, I'm sorry to say, someone's going to be replacing her in his franchise, which he's also abandoned and left. But it looks like it's in kind of good hands. I will say though, we're kind of having a redux period of trailers here. Jurassic Park is back, Star Wars is back, and now Terminator is back. And of all these throwback trailers, I think this is the weakest. And the reason is because I think that Jurassic World and Star Wars The Force Awakens were very respectful of their original films, but they really did a good job of integrating the new, and that they made you feel like these were iconic new films. Like they were taking the properties really seriously. They both realized some repair work has to be done, and they're on it. But this trailer, it has some like razzle-dazzle here and there, but it really feels to me like just another entry in the franchise. Nothing special. And that's what I think is largely missing from the trailer. All right, so let's dive in and go section by section. So we're going to start out here. This one was easy to title as we started here. This is the future. All right, so we come in. It's your standard Terminator future. And I have to say, if in the future all we have are Jai Courtneys and Jason Clarkes, we're in trouble. We do need to change this future. There's just so little charisma on screen here. It's really amazing. I mean, talk about needing more Terminators. There's one, but, you know, it's a really quick shot. And also, I have to say, this face makeup on Jason Clarke is just really bad. It's just horrible. I can't believe that all the money they have on this film, and they're like, you know what, that looks close enough. I mean, it's really poorly done. I do like seeing this whole situation where they show someone going back in time, the machine that they use. But this right here, this confuses me because, as we all recall from the Terminator films, it was pretty well established that John Connor knew that Kyle Reese was his father. And so he had to send him back to die and to, you know, plant his seed and create himself. So that was like a really, we're going to stop this here before we head into the next section, but, you know, that was a really big turning point. So I don't know why Jason Clarke's character, or his version of John Connor, is like, what, you'll do what for me? I mean, either he's like an amazing actor or something's changed. And I think something might be up. We've seen some shots of John Connor talking to them in the past or something, so we don't really know what's going on here. I mean, clearly anything can happen now because they've totally changed the timeline. But then why does he say that line to him like, oh, this is going to end the war right here? We're like, well, you know, we don't think so because we know it doesn't so far. You've done this before. I mean, we know that you do because of the whole time loop thing. But unless, you know, this leads me to believe, long story short, that this John Connor is evil. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe it's not even John Connor. I don't know. All right, so then we go. This is now titled The Past. This section is the past. Typical, you know, John Courtney does have the body for these nude scenes, I will say. So, you know, he's in the past here, and then I'm so happy the way I start to like the trailer a little bit more here. I love the gender reversal, by the way. I'm going to stop it for a second. This gender reversal of when she's like, come with me if you want to live, and Sarah Connor gets to deliver that iconic line. I really like it a lot. I think that's great. And then, of course, the T-1000, and it's played by Byung-hun Lee. This is just... The trailer just gets infinitely better. It makes me so much more excited for it. I think that that's a great idea to use him. I think he's a great evil Terminator. It's a great use of an actor whose English is limited. My only question is, why is he stylized like Robert Patrick? They're like, everything else is the same, but like this T-1000, for some reason, the way the timeline changed, we now decided to just pick an Asian version to send back. That seems a little weird to me, but I wish I wish that Byung-hun Lee could create his own Terminator that would be iconic instead of just kind of playing the Asian version of Robert Patrick's T-1000. You know, he could have the T-1000 technology, which is by far the best Terminator technology, I think, to date. But he could look like anything he wants to. Literally, that's part of the technology. So, I mean, I understand that law enforcement is a useful cover, but maybe he could be a detective. Maybe he could be a military person, you know, some kind of upgrade. So now this section is like the things have changed. You know, we're no longer, this isn't your daddy's Terminator. And speaking of daddies, we'll get to that in a moment. But here, I like this. This is a good introduction of Arnold. And I'm really glad they're not overusing Arnold here. I appreciate that. I think that this is, pause this for a moment. So we have two Arnolds here. So just as I said they were underusing Arnold, we see two of them. This is the spot in the trailer where I think the visual effects are worse than Terminator Salvation. I only liked Terminator Salvation for a few moments, and that's when the digital Arnold was on screen. And he looked just like he did in the original Terminator film. And it was so cool to see. It gave me like instant nostalgia and flashbacks. I was like, this is so great. Look how good special effects have become. It looks just like him. And then I see this plasticky looking version that has the wrong hair. And I'm just like, what? Just go get the CGI files that you have from the Terminator Salvation from a couple of years ago. Just stick those in the computer. What do we have this like? He looks like Stretch Armstrong. It's really horrible. But, you know, Arnold, you know, will easily dispatch our Stretch Armstrong Terminator. And then also, I'm very, you know, these are very low-tech special effects for the T-1000, which is, you know, that's not, the whole point of the T-1000 is that he does, you know, much cooler things. So I'm disappointed in that a little bit. Then we go into Terminator Dad. Now, as we discussed, you know, and some of the details were released with the Entertainment Weekly cover story on this a couple of weeks ago, this Sarah Connor was rescued by a Terminator when she was a child and raised by the Terminator. Now, I like this imagery here. I think this is very cool. I mean, of course, they can't show his face because, you know, they want to save some money and that's not really Arnold or it's Arnold's back, you know, whatever, etc., etc. But I do like the imagery. I think it's very interesting. This is the one part of the trailer which really sparks my interest besides Byung-hun Lee. And, you know, I do, as I said, I like Emilia Clarke here. But this is something new. It's something different. There's some effort made here to have some interesting, you know, cinematography. I like it. And I like the idea of Sarah Connor being raised by a Terminator. Now, they're going to have a really hard time not just doing a repeat of what happens with young John Connor, played by Eddie Furlong, and Arnold Schwarzenegger's T-800, back in the Terminator 2. But if they can stray away from that and just make it a really interesting exploration of what it's like for a human who's raised by a machine, because, remember in T2, Eddie Furlong was kind of raising the machine. He was almost the father figure. So to reverse that, what does that do to Sarah Connor emotionally? And they hinted they're going to explore that. I wish this trailer explored that a little bit more. I wish they just had one joke or one line about her kind of reaction or something. I do miss crazy Sarah Connor, because this one seems very well adjusted. I did like my crazy Sarah Connor who, had no, social skills and, abandoned them and was just, got results. And, her struggle with her sanity. I liked that a lot. This I don't see there. And it hasn't been replaced with anything quite yet. Then we move into the next section of the trailer, which I call the special effects reel. And it's, it's not a very impressive special effects reel. We've seen the T-1000 do that a whole bunch of times before, this liquid version. We see them go back to Skynet again. How many times are they going to go to Skynet? And it always looks the same. I would have preferred at least some kind of, redesign for the way Skynet looks. And then we're in this race, and then we get to our first money shot right here. This, by far and away, is a great money shot. I love it. I literally am on board with that money shot, but I have to tell you this. I'm pretty sure they'd all die. So that's the only problem with this money shot, where I'm like, that's super cool, but I don't care who raised you or if you're from the future, you can't survive that, especially with the kind of seatbelts that they have in school buses. I mean, it's just not going to happen. But, this is a movie, and they do, obviously, as you can see. So they have this, and then they go to the final money shot. They have the title, and then he says this iconic line, "I'll be back," one of the other big lines from the movie. And this is kind of badass, but at the same time I'm distracted because I'm like, do you have a supply of Terminator skin somewhere? Because when you go through those propeller blades, you might be stopping that helicopter, but you're not going to have any skin left on you, Terminator Dad. It's almost like Father Knows Best, like an episode of that. That could be really amusing. But, they have to be careful because the audience knows so much about the Terminator universe and can be a little bit of a few steps ahead of the movie that they don't want us, taking ourselves out of it being like, but wait a minute. And that's kind of what that shot does. As cool as it might seem, I'm like, he's useless to you guys for the rest of your lives because he's just going to be a walking exoskeleton. But we'll see. So that's the trailer. There's no more. There's no little teaser shot at the end. They just do the cool music. They're like, dong, 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 dong. And I still really like that. It still gives me chills. I think that there's a lot here to salvage. These old franchises are like digging through a scrap heap. You're like, so much damage has been done, but I know there's something worthwhile left here. And, I think it's debatable as to whether or not Arnold Schwarzenegger is one of those things. But I'm curious to see what they've kept, what they've changed. And I want to see more Terminators, and I want to see Terminators doing more interesting things. And, I have to say, I've come to the conclusion, after all these movies and all the different people they try and bring in, that the real star of this franchise is James Cameron. And until he comes back, or maybe they can find a filmmaker that's that inspired. And, and I think Alan Taylor, with this and Thor 2 so far, I'm not feeling inspiration from him. But until they find a filmmaker who really knows how to push the edge of the envelope and is so good at mixing, soap opera elements and special effects, and that's the James Cameron formula. It's very simple. He does it in all of his films, from Terminator to True Lies to Titanic and to Avatar. They're like super sudsy, but then they are amazing special effects, and they show you things you've never seen before. And somebody just needs to sit in a room. They need to be locked in a room with a notepad and be like, go think of something we've never seen before, and then we'll go do it. So I'm curious to what do you think of this trailer? What do you think of it compared to the Jurassic World and Star Wars Episode 7 trailers we just saw? What do you think of the new cast? What do you think? Do you like Emilia Clarke as much as I do? What do you think of this whole idea of an alternate timeline? Write your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for tuning into my review. Let me know if you still like this style of review. And you can also check out some other episodes right now.